I would like to begin by thanking my audience for being here today. All right. Have you noticed the amount of vegetarian restaurants, blogs, recipe books, and influencers that have seemed to pop up in recent years? There's been a clear rise in the vegetarian population, and so I began my research to debunk the reasons why. Today, I am going to talk about the ethics behind a vegetarian diet, the environmental and health benefits and risks, as well as whether or not the vegetarian diet is a fad. Let's begin with covering the ethics behind a vegetarian diet. In 2009, a documentary titled Foul Play was released to the public and turned the world upside down. The documentary covered factory farming, specifically chickens. Harrison Jacobs discovered that about 900 chickens per flock died due to the horrible living conditions in which they endured. These conditions consist of dark and overcrowded and disease-infested areas. Sadly, chickens are not the only ones that are being mistreated, but cows are as well. Cows, on the other hand, are not born into factory farms, but must be transported there through, once again, dark and overcrowded buses. In these buses, uncooperative cows are beaten and probbed through the eyes and the rectum, according to a former USDA inspector. Vegetarians strongly believe that animals raised purely for human consumption are raised unethically. Now that we have covered the ethics behind the vegetarian diet, let's move on to the health and environmental benefits and risks. Depending on who you ask, the vegetarian diet has many health benefits, but according to my research, it actually only has a couple. The first being that it lowers your saturated fat and cholesterol intake. Meat tends to be very high in both of these things, so depending on what you eat. The second is that it helps with managing hypertension. Once again, lowering cholesterol and saturated fat intake will naturally lead to a much healthier diet. Now let's move on to the health risks of the vegetarian diet. Completely cutting out an entire food group can be potentially dangerous. The vegetarian diet often leads to a diet low in protein and vitamin B, which are both very essential to a well-rounded, healthy diet. Next, let's cover the environmental benefits and risks. Terry Whittington says that animal pollutants leak into nearby rivers and lakes and other bodies of water full of phosphorus, nitrogen, and other antibiotics. John Egan says that about 15% of man-made green gas emissions is from livestock, thanks to the methane gas that those animals release. Paul Fishbeck seems to disagree, though. He says that eating lettuce is about 3 times worse than eating bacon. Now that we have covered the health and environmental benefits and risks, let's talk about whether or not the vegetarian diet is a fad. Have you heard of the Whole30 diet or keto or juice cleanses? Those are all considered to be fad diets. The 3 main people that tend to practice a vegetarian diet are, first, those who follow it for ethical reasons, second, those who follow it for weight loss, and third, those who follow it because of the region in which they live in. The first most successful people that tend to follow the vegetarian diet are those that follow it for ethical reasons. Because these people have so much passion behind following the diet, they seem to be more successful, but are not as successful as, say, vegans are. The next successful people are those that follow it for weight loss. Typically, people only lose weight because of the vegetarian diet due to the lack of calories that they are eating. Sadly, people that follow the vegetarian diet for weight loss and don't actually lose weight, it is because they fill those calories with processed foods and carbs. The The next type of people that follow a vegetarian diet are those that follow it because of the region in which they live in, such as India and Israel, in which those are the two biggest vegetarian countries. Now that we have covered all of my topics today, ethics, health and environmental benefits and risks, as well as whether or not the vegetarian diet is a fad, which I believe that it is not because it is not centralized around purely losing weight, I would like to conclude by saying that I hope that you can better decide if the vegetarian diet is now right for you. There are many celebrities practicing the vegetarian diet now, consisting of Ariana Grande and Natalie Portman, but that does not mean that the vegetarian diet is right for you. Carefully consider the topics that I discussed today before going on that adventure for yourself. Thank you for coming to my speech today.